been working as a professional magician for 25 years. And every time that I invite someone to come up here on this stage, there's a weird silence. No worries, not going to invite anyone. I saw some people looking away, just because something similar happens in organizations when a leader asks for idea and people hold back because of the fear of being perceived as incompetent or judged or look like a foolish. We call this creative avoidance, which is the disengagement in creative activities because of the fear of being perceived as incompetent. I'll give an example. I might have an idea, but if I believe that sharing this idea will make me look like foolish, judged, or even perceived as incompetent, I stay silent. And this silence, this hesitation, this lack of action is creative avoidance. It is the biggest villain of this talk because it kills not only creativity, but also innovation at every stage, from idea generation to idea implementation. Because people become too afraid to fail, too afraid to try, and this is creative avoidance. Out of this fear of being perceived as incompetent, we begin demanding for something called psychologically safe environments. In other words, I believe that I need a safe space where I can share my ideas or express myself. The problem is that this need for safety is in many ways unrealistic because safety is rarely absolute. It depends far more on my perception than on the environment itself. And what feels safe to me may not feel safe to you. I'm going to give an example. My literature review on creativity and resilience in employees, I found many interesting studies. But I would like to highlight one by Lee and Lin, conducted in 2024 with 200 employees on creativity and abusive leadership. You heard well, abusive leadership. Just to keep us on the same page, abusive leaders show behaviors like hostility, dishonesty, public humiliation, and all those kind of behaviors that we wouldn't want in a safe environment, right, guys? Yet, their results revealed a very interesting paradox. Because for some employees, abusive leadership completely destroyed creativity. But for others, the same abusive leadership actually sparked creativity. You see, the same event, two different outcomes. We can realize that the problem is not out there. The problem is in here, in how we perceive and react to the environment. Because when we rely on a perfect environment to be creative, to act creatively, we are actually outsourcing the responsibility for our creativity to external factors, something like this. If my boss doesn't support my ideas, I won't share them anymore. If the organization doesn't provide a safe environment, I'll stay silent. You see, when we think like this, we become a hostage, a victim to those conditions, which, in some ways, that feels comfortable, right? Because if I'm not being creative, it's not my fault at all. It's the organization's fault, the leader's fault, my colleagues' fault, because they are not meeting my needs and expectations. And this is when we lose control over our creativity. I'll try to show you how dangerous it is to rely on perfect conditions, on a perfect environment to be creative. In the same literature review, I found 102 different external factors that affect employee creativity. Some of them push it up, like having autonomy to complete a task. Some of them drive creativity down, like micromanagement or lack of organizational support. These factors range from social relationship, team interaction, leadership, organizational support, organizational culture, task design, resource allocation, blah, 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 and finish at family. Even family affects employee creativity. Imagine this. You are here on this stage, and there are 102 people in this auditorium. Out of them, 101 are motivating you, stimulating you to share your idea. But there's just one voice, one single voice shouting at you, say, don't share your idea. It's silly. You'll be judged. You'll be embarrassed. Which voice do we hear? We don't need to answer. Actually, we hear all of them. The problem is that we tend to listen to the loudest one. And sometimes one single voice is enough to kill our creativity, despite all the other positive voices. That's tough, but I have great news. You want to hear? Yes. Thank you. This great news is called resilience. Resilience can flip this script. Resilience is our human capacity to bounce back from the adversities. It's our human capacity to achieve goals despite obstacles and hardships. The more resilient we are, the less affected by external factors we become. It's like this. It's like you putting on a powerful pair of headphones, and even with 102 people screaming against you, against your creativity, that powerful internal resilience voice is enough to drown out all the external noise and make you the protagonist of your creativity again. That's the power of resilience. Now, would you like to share with you 4 voices that stood out in my study with 306 Australian academics that can help you to improve your resilience. The first voice is learning goal orientation. That voice will tell you to focus on learning, not on performance. Because if you focus on learning, every mistake will teach you something, and they won't harm you. The second voice is vulnerability. That voice will tell you that mistakes are normal. They make you human. They help us grow. And embracing your vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but of true courage instead. The third voice is creative self-efficacy. That voice will tell you to trust your capacity to solve problems. Because if you have managed to solve your problems up to now, you're also capable of solving future problems. And the last voice is optimism. That voice will tell you to focus on positives, not on negatives. We may not avoid bad things happen to us, but it's our decision not to waste our time, energy, and thoughts on them. And also, believing that the future will be positive and things will work out, help us with that extra strength to keep going. Now, I would like to share my own voice. My own voice will tell you that creativity equals legacy. Because for 2 reasons. Every time you share an idea, 2 things happen. 1, you might be helping someone solve a problem. And 2, you are inspiring them to do the same. Either way, you are helping to make a better world. And this is exactly what I'm doing here today. I'm sharing my idea, but also I'm trying to inspire you to share yours. But also, I'm here facing my own fear of being perceived as incompetent. Because as you may have noticed, English is not my first language. As you can see, I'm here facing my own fear of being perceived as incompetent. But if I had surrendered to that fear, I would have let creative avoidance win. And that's not the goal. But I think that the best way to talk about creativity and resilience is through the way that I know the best. I remember when I was younger, I used to go to my grandpa's house. My grandpa, let's introduce my grandpa here. This is my grandpa. He was so kind, so friendly, so smart. He was very creative. Actually, he was an enthusiastic of creativity. Every night, my brothers and I used to sit on his bed and say, "Grandpa, can you do a magic trick?" I don't know if you know, I came from a family of magicians. My great-grandfather was a magician. My grandfather was a magician. My father was a magician. I'm also a magician. According to my mom, it's 4th generation without a proper job. But we like what we do. It was supposed to have a scissor here. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'll need the scissor as well. Thank you. And we're there sitting on the bed, begging for a magic trick, and we always asked for the rope trick, always. My grandpa would then take a piece of rope, look at us, and say, "This is the rope of creativity." And we then asked, "Why, Grandpa? Why this is the rope of creativity?" He then said, "Because the rope It's like a creative process. It has a beginning, it has an end, but forget the ends. Forget the ends, he used to say. Forget the ends. They're important, but for creativity, the middle is much more important, because here is where the magic happens. Here is where we imagine, we create, we develop, we fail, we learn. And there were two things that my grandpa told me that left a deep impression on me. The first one was, Marcelo, creativity is simple, creativity is easy, so don't tie knots where they don't exist. Don't complicate. Don't let fear tie invisible knots in your creative mind. Don't let external factors determine our creativity. But he also told me that I was the only one responsible for my creativity. If I had complicated, I was the only one responsible for simplifying. If my grandpa were alive, he would be celebrating 100 years. He was so creative, that it feels like his creativity had no ends. Thank you. Unlike my grandma, whose creativity was very short and limited, because she was a self-critical and perfectionist person. And even though their creativity connected in a somewhat magical way. I remember myself sitting on the bed. My grandpa with his booming voice said, "Boy, learn something. Tie the ends," he used to say. Tie the ends, tie the ends, tie the ends. I was a 10-year-old boy. I had no idea what tie the end meant. And he then explained that tie the end meant complete the cycle. If you start something, tie the ends, complete the cycle. If you started a dream, complete the cycle. If you started a project, complete the cycle. If you started an idea, develop it, complete the cycle. He told me that there was nothing worse than starting a creative project, and out of fear, because of creative avoidance, you cutting it in half. But the moment that marked me the most was when he took a pair of scissors and said, "Boy, your creative life will be marked by both good and bad things, breakthroughs and creative blocks, successes and failures, moments of clarity, moments of doubt." He told me that these things would mark my life forever. I was a 10-year-old boy. I told him, "Oh, Grandpa, it would be so good if I only had good things in my creative life." And as he knew what I was going to say, he said, "The bad things are good too." "How come, Grandpa? How the bad things can be good too?" For example, mistakes can teach you to learn and grow. Failures can teach you to persist and become more resilient. At that moment, I looked at those notes and thought, I don't think I can make it. I don't think. And as he was reading my mind, he looked at me and said, "You can. Don't stop at the first obstacle. Don't stop at the second obstacle. And no matter how tough is the fight, no matter how challenging is the battle," he said that humans have a great advantage, something called resilience. With it, we can bounce back from any adversity, and if necessary, start all over again. And this is what he called the rope of creativity. Thank you so much.